Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So chapters open, chapters close, and sometimes we are not told of particularly important events in the Doctor's history. So let us go and experience one of the great untold tales. He says, not having read this before. We're going to find out what really happened to the Sixth Doctor. And that we're going to experience Spiral Scratch by Gary Russell.
Ah, wow. That is, I know that is, I have an idea of like what happens in that book. There will be lots of plot threads from lots of different continuities, I think, kind of coming together, and we'll see how that all...
Yes, because I think it makes clear from the blurb that this book happens before Time in Narani.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well, Chris. Happy March.
Happy March to everyone who's celebrating. Yeah.
Beware the Ides and all of that.
Yes.
Which kind of ties into our book this month. There's a bit of a loose Roman connection.
There is. Well, yes, it's more than a loose Roman connection. we get more Roman than I expected.
And of course, this month we are reading Spiral Scratch by Gary Russell. Mm-hmm. But first, we do have a bit of book news to share. Paul Cornell's goth opera is being adapted by Big Finish. Specifically, Liz Miles from Verity was doing the adaptation.
Yeah, this is very exciting. It kind of makes me wonder what other books might be coming our way, because it's been, the best part of 8 years, I think, since we last had an adaptation from Big Finish.
Yeah, I think the last one was Cold Fusion back in 2016, which incidentally is a free giveaway with DWM 598 last month, so subscribers do look for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, exciting stuff, and I wonder how their depiction of the baby vampire scene will compare to ours.
Yes. I do wonder if some of the cricket references in Tasmania might get cut. Because that gets quite crickety.
On July 9th, there's going to be a release called 15 Doctors, 15 Stories, which is going to be the fourth re-release of this short story collection, which may be a record. Originally was 11 Doctors, 11 Stories, but with like Naomi Alderman and Neil Gaiman contributing short stories, it's no wonder that they keep re-releasing it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's coming out on July 9th. And then 2 books have started showing up for pre-order in October of 2024, and they're mysteriously called Icons Part 1 and Icons Part 2.
Ooh.
So no word if these are fiction or non-fiction or who the authors are quite yet, but mysterious.
Yes.
And finally, the 2025 Doctor Who Annual will be due out on October 15th.
Cool. Just in time for our October episode.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And of course, a little bit of show-related news. We'd be remiss, especially since it being a Sixth Doctor month, not to mention that Michael Jaston, the Valyard himself, passed away last month at the age of 88.
Yeah.
I first met him at Chicago TARDIS back in 2013, and he was a wonderful guest to meet. And of course, we've seen him, or at least I've seen him more recently on some of the Behind the Sofas that have been coming out with the Blu-ray collections. Yeah. So wonderful. We might get some like posthumous appearances by him in some of those, depending on how far in advance they've been recording those.
I think they've been recording those quite far in advance because obviously the cast from the 70s and 80s, they are getting on, those that are still with us. But Michael Jason was always very proud of the fact that he has played the Doctor. And he would often just say, yeah, I've played the Doctor. And he has.
Yeah.
Definitely not a heroic version, but he has definitely played the Doctor. There's no arguing with that.
Somewhere between the 12th and final incarnations.
Yes. Or an alternative timeline. I think that's where Big Finish are kind of like landing these days, isn't it?
Speaking of timelines, we have quite a few in our book this month.
Yes. You may need to get a piece of paper out and a graph or something.
But first, we have show and tell.
Yes.
And
you go first. Yeah. So what have you got for us, Matt?
So I listened to a Big Finish this past month.
Cool.
Specifically, the first part of 2019's Big Finish 20th Anniversary Legacy of Time box set, which is a story by James Goss called Lies in Ruins, where we get to experience River Song meeting Bernice Summerfield for the first time. Or not actually the first time, starring Alex Kingston and Lisa Bowerman. And it was quite a fun little adventure. I haven't listened to the rest of Legacy of Time yet, so I'm not sure quite how it all ties in together. But this is the sonic trowel era of River before she gets her screwdriver.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time the two characters have met, because River studied under Benny while she taught at Luna University and was, according to Benny, her most annoying and truant student ever. And I'm not sure if her time teaching at Luna University is before or after her time teaching on Della. I'm not quite sure how the timeline works there.
No, I'm not too sure either.
But the Eighth Doctor from the Edge of the Time War also shows up with a companion named Rhea, who is named after Nick Briggs's companion in the audio visuals. And she's very wide-eyed and earnest, like early Mel turned up to 11.
Right.
And the events of the dying days are not really referenced in any way, apart from Benny acknowledging that she's met this version of the Doctor before.
Yes.
There's also a clever misdirect by James Goss involving a design found in two different civilizations, which did make me kind of go, but I won't say anything more there in case listeners haven't heard it yet.
Sure.
And I don't know necessarily that Alex and Lisa were in the same recording session for this one.
Yeah, I don't think she's ever actually met her. They were certainly not present when they were recording.
You do get a very much like a competitive and cooperative vibe from them, and if they haven't met, you certainly can't tell in the edit. But Paul McGann did have a great kind of doctory speech in this one, and there's lots of twists and turns, which I'm not going into. But
Please don't. I haven't heard it yet.
But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It was a fun outing with the two of them.
Fantastic.
How about for you, Chris?
Well, I have also got into the realms of Big Finish.
Ooh.
And I have gone for something that I wonder if I've actually had before as a show and tell, but it's particularly relevant this month. I listened to Doctor Who The Last Adventure, which is Big Finish's version of the Sixth Doctor's final story, and features quite a few of the Sixth Doctor's Big Finish companions, not all of them, but it's an interesting tale. It's different than Spiral Scratch. The first time I listened to it, I was a little bit frustrated because it's a bit episodic, because it's 4 stories set in different periods of the Sixth Doctor's life, but the final one is right at the end. I mean, I guess that is a way in which you could have like various Big Finish companions in without there being a lot of heavy lifting. And funnily enough, that box set is the first appearance of the Doctor's companion Constance, even though it's not the story in which she joins the Doctor. I thought, well, this is not the first time that this has happened to the Sixth Doctor, is it?
Glad that they carried that forward.
Yes, I don't think it was an intentional carry on of that tradition. It's fun. There are some surprises. I mean, you can tell from the cover that the Veil Yard is very much in it, but there are definitely some surprises, and I say there is a big reveal in the first story that I'd completely forgotten, and I was greatly delighted by it. I am not going to say anything more about it, but for me, the strongest are the first and fourth stories. But there is a good, fun werewolf story in there. There's also a Jago and Lightfoot tale, which I very much enjoyed. So that means that friend of the show, Lisa Bowerman, is in it because she's a regular in the Jago and Lightfoot stories. It's a good listen. I think it's available on Spotify. If you have not heard it, it's well worth your time, and it is one version of the Sixth Doctor's Last Stand.
I haven't listened to it myself. It's sitting on my shelf, the limited, oversized version.
Yeah.
But I haven't listened to it yet, with the exception of, I think, the ending bits, which were turned into a YouTube video by Confession Dial, who's a pretty talented YouTuber when it comes to creating something out of nothing.
Yes.
Using images and clips. So we may link to that in the Spotify version if we can find it in the show notes this month.
Yeah.
So, that was one version of the Sixth Doctor's last days, and we've read Spiral Scratch.
Yes.
Which is by Gary Russell, who is a former child actor, having been in the 1970s version of The Famous Five.
Yep.
He's also been script editor on Doctor Who, producer, essentially the showrunner for Big Finish for the first 90 or so of their releases, and he's also been keeping busy lately producing some of the animations of missing classic episodes.
Yes.
And we've read Big Bang Generation and The Twilight Streets by him previously, and I think I've also read his New Adventure Legacy and The Missing Adventure Invasion of the Cat People, kind of on my own time. Spiral Scratch was published in August of 2005, which is interesting because it's some 6 months after the premiere of the new Eccleston season, as the Past Doctor Adventures and the Eighth Doctor Adventures were winding down, and it was the 70th of 74 Past Doctor Adventures released. At the end of the book, there's a blurb for Nick Wallace's Fear Itself with the Eighth Doctor, alongside promotion for the first 6 new series novels featuring the Ninth Doctor. And in paging through the book, it very much felt like a changes in the air thing, and it's kind of cool seeing the Eighth Doctor advert right alongside the Ninth Doctor one. I'm very glad that the Rangers had an overlap period rather than a period of time without the books being published.
Yep.
The novel and the chapter titles are named after, there's a British band, the Buzzcocks.
Buzzcocks, no la.
Oh.
I think.
I have never heard of Buzzcocks before.
Oh, okay. They're very fine. I've very much enjoyed their oeuvre. I am trying to remind myself of some of their singles. But yeah, there's a TV series that David Tennant has appeared on a few times called Nevermind the Buzzcocks. Yeah, so there's quite a few Doctor Who folk that have rocked up on Buzzcocks, including, I think, Janet Ellis of Horns of Nimon fame, and definitely her daughter, Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
Huh. Well, I have heard of her.
You have heard of her, yes.
Yes, but not Buzzcocks. And the cover of this book is suitably garish, I would say, matching the clothing taste of the Sixth Doctor and what almost looks like new series regeneration energy kind of emanating from the cover.
Yes, yeah.
Well, shall we get started?
Yes, let's.
So the novel opens one day in medieval Suffolk, which the inhabitants of the village Woolpit.
Yes, it's a real place as well.
They hear a strange sound like a pulsing heartbeat, and Shepherd Mullen sees the ground in the village subside, revealing a cave in which he can hear 2 children crying. The villagers rescue these children, who are a boy and a girl. And I was getting, there's an RTD series about a set of twins from the early 90s, Century Falls. I was getting kind of vibes there. Only to discover the children have bright green skin, and they're also unable to speak English. And the touch of the boy's hand calms the nerves of his short-tempered sister, and also heals Jude, who was injured. And the village squire, Richard Decane, names the children Julian and Dominique after his parents. But despite his attempts to care for the children, many of the villagers view their unnatural skin color with suspicion and fear. Julian falls ill and telepathically communicates with his friends, telling them that the effort of healing Jude was too much for him to handle, and him and his sister must return to the cave to try and find their way back home. The squire takes the children back to the cave, only to find that the frightened brother Lucian and Shepherd Mullen have it sealed up with thatch and mud. And Julian dies before the cave can be opened again, and without his healing presence to hold her back, the enraged Dominique attacks and kills both Mullen and Lucien with a shepherd's crook, which is quite violent and was giving me like River Tam from Firefly or
Yes.
Faith from Buffy sort of vibes in that moment. And after the attack, Dominique flees into the woods and the squire follows her, but does not come back out again. And so the frightened villagers decide to burn down the entire forest.
So, here's the thing. Woolpit is a real village, and there is a legend of there being a boy and a girl found with bright green skin from the 12th century.
Huh.
And the boy grows ill and dies, and the girl survives, and some people say that her descendants live in the village to this day, and her skin gradually turned less green over time.
Huh. I had never heard about that. I mean,
no, it's a bit of an obscure tale, but if people are intrigued by this, there is a fantastic episode of a podcast series called After Dark that was released in February about Woolpit. There are various different explanations as to what actually happened here. One is that in reality, they might have been Dutch children, or they could have been just children from another village. Because at first, so the children are unable to speak English, and that is true in the tale of the Green Children of Woolpit. But and I think if you go to Woolpit, you see a sign featuring 2 green children.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had no idea that it was like a real local legend that
Yes.
he was incorporating into Doctor Who there.
Yes, certainly. It got me excited. We're like, oh, we're starting with Woolpit. Excellent. Right, okay. So we go away from Woolpit. The Sixth Doctor decides to visit his friend, Professor Rummus, at the library of Carsus. Whilst he's picking up a book from the TARDIS library, Mel notices that one of the roundels on the console room's wall has been replaced by a photo of Mel standing next to an unfamiliar girl. The Doctor then walks back into the console room. Nothing odd about that. But the Doctor is doing this several times over. And there's various different Doctors, but not at the same time. And one of the Doctors is dressed in black and has a scar across one eye, and is accompanied by an alternative version of Mel with a shaven head. And the Doctors communicate with one another, trying to put together all of their knowledge into a coherent picture. But they vanish before Mel learns anything other than their suspicion that this is the work of something called the Lamprey. And then Mel's own Doctor returns to the console room and reveals that a future incarnation of himself has just contacted him and told him it's vital that he visit Carsus as planned.
And of course, the Doctor has an old friend in some location.
Yes.
That has never been mentioned before or since, but it seems like a thing that the Sixth Doctor does a lot.
Yes, I was going to say, especially the Sixth Doctor, because he did it in the Twin Dilemma. That classic.
And it was funny, too, with the scene with the multiple Doctors in the console room.
Yeah.
When the real our timeline or the book timeline Doctor first comes back into the room, his first words to Mel are, "What did you touch?" Something on the control panel there.
Yeah.
And there was a kind of a brief cameo by Benny here.
Yes.
Where Mel's reading a book describing the Time Lords from the Braxiatel collection.
Yes.
From an archaeologist that the Doctor was aware of.
Yes, and a grumpy professor, I think, is how it's described.
Which was a fun little cameo.
Yes.
We then turn to Bucharest. I think that's in Hungary, right?
Nope, it's in Romania.
Oh.
Budapest. Budapest is in Hungary. So,
there we go.
Yes.
So in Romania,
yes.
We have Professor Joseph Tungard, who has lived through World War II and survived a number of occasionally inexplicable events that could have killed him. However, here he falls afoul of the new Soviet government, which he steps up to defend his friend Dr. Emil Schwartz, who had been accused of collaborating with the Nazis. And Tungard and his wife, Natya, are arrested for harboring criminals when the Schwartz family seeks shelter with them. But Tungard is too public a figure to disappear, and him and his wife are then exiled to Britain. And on their trip to London, they're befriended by a young Englishwoman named Monica, along with her grandfather, Dr. Pike, who tends to Natya when she falls ill on the crossing.
Yeah, so we're getting quite a few different story threads starting. And so let's just chuck in a new one, hey? Meanwhile, in Britain, Sir Bertrand Lamprey's schedule unexpectedly changes. And as a result, he has to take his daughter Helen to London for a doctor's appointment, whilst his wife Elspeth remains at home to discuss the upcoming Christmas fete with the ladies of the village.
I had to look up what a Christmas fete was because I had never heard of that term before.
Yeah, it's a kind of like a Christmas party type thing, but it's like often with stalls and things like that.
Oh, like a Christmas market sort of?
Yeah, that kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Huh.
And you have summer fates as well.
Interesting.
When Sir Bertrand and Helen return, they find that the hall has gone up in flames, killing Elspeth. And in another time, and another part of Britain, two grieving parents visit their young daughter's grave for the last time. Al and Chrissy have decided to move to a different part of the country to put a tragedy behind them and to try to raise their surviving daughter without recriminations or anger. So it's intriguing, isn't it? All these various different threads, because I'm going, oh, we're starting something new, right?
So then we are on the planet of Karsus, where the Library of Karsus is shaped like a pentagon, almost like a Masonic temple in deep space. As the Doctor and Mel are walking through its corridors, Mel notes that it takes exactly 7 minutes to walk from one junction to the next, just as it does in the U.S. Pentagon, which feels like a fact that Gary Russell learned and then decided to stick in this book.
Yes.
And then Mel and the Doctor reach the head librarian's office, only to find Rummus's body slumped over his desk and the Doctor's body lying next to it, both murdered, and the Doctor not regenerating.
Yeah.
Rummus then walks back into the room, very much alive, and the bodies vanish, and he reveals that he's seen 3 similar visions over the past week. Karsus is located in an area of space known for temporal anomalies, but it shouldn't be possible for any of them to affect the interior of the library. And Rummus also reveals that this sector of space is known for its pentagonal architecture, but there are only 4 planets outside of the sector known to have similar buildings, and each of them is registering high levels of Cronin radiation energy.
And isn't it implied that the Pentagon is one of them?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wonder if the Dapol 5-sided TARDIS is to blame there.
Yes. Yeah.
The library also is very extensive and almost takes up the entire planet, which was giving me like Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead sort of vibes.
Yeah. It also gives me a bit of a Logopolis kind of vibe.
Mm.
And I guess that illusion is entirely intentional. So Mel and the Doctor discuss this rather weird situation with Professor Rummus over dinner. And Mel, reminded of Christmas dinners with her family, suddenly feels an inexplicable chill. Unsure what has so unnerved her, she decides to explore the library. In the reading room, she meets 2 custodians, Mr. Waltas and Mr. who recognise her on sight and offer to give her the books that she'd asked for. When she claims not to have asked for any books, the disturbed custodians leave the room, and when they apparently return moments later, they have no idea who Mel is, for they haven't met her yet. So we are getting very Moffat, aren't we?
And speaking of inexplicable chills, when they were describing the planets in this planetary system, I got a bit of a chill hearing that one of the planets mentioned was Lacertia, knowing what awaits the Doctor there.
Yes, yes.
So then Mel and the custodians report the incident to Rummus, who sends the librarians to fetch a time path indicator. And moments after they have left, the Doctor and Rummus apparently enter the room. However, they fail to notice Mel trying to attract their attention. The Doctor and Rummus are discussing the implications of the library having gone non-linear, which could be an indication that the vortex spiral has been scratched, resulting in Cronon spillage that is causing many different timelines of the multiverse to overlap. Chaos could ensue if the scratch is not repaired, and Rummus therefore asks the Doctor to take Melanie to the planet Shillus to investigate the high level of Cronon energy on that planet. The Doctor and Rummus then vanish into thin air, and moments later another Doctor and Rummus enter the reading room. Mel is able to interact with these two, who are from her own timeline, and her story seems to confirm the other version's fear that the timelines are overlapping. Disturbed, Rummus tells the Doctor and Mel that he's detected a potential trouble spot on Earth in the year 1958, when a woman named Helen Lamprey is about to vanish from her 16th birthday party.
Yeah, so let's go to 1958 then. The Doctor and Mel gate crash Helen's party at Wyke's Manor in Wendleston, Suffolk. And this is an area known for general weirdness because it's quite close to Woolpit, the village from the start of the book. Because you might be wondering, what's that got to do with the price of fish? So Sir Bertrand, Helen's father, put aside his political ambitions after the fire that killed his wife so that he could raise his daughter. and she's grown to an intelligent, charming young woman. And the Doctor wins Helen over by praising her art, including an image of a pentagonal building. But Mel isn't impressed by the young socialite, and in fact, she calls her a bitch.
Yeah.
I was like, really? I mean, okay. I mean, she thinks, it's in her head, but still, I was like, really? Is this the Mel that we've seen on television? So Mel goes off to have a drink by herself. She then hears someone telling her to remember her sister, and the Doctor appears at her shoulder, only to take a look at her, and then realise that she is not his Melanie. So the timelines are overlapping again, and Mel's Doctor, so our Doctor, is still talking with Helen. So this mysterious alternative Doctor vanishes, and as Mel goes to tell her Doctor what happened, the entire party freezes in a moment of time, apart from the Doctor, Helen, who is still moving but very slowly, and Sir Bertrand, who, like the Doctor, is moving normally. The Doctor grabs Mel out of the frozen moment, whilst the house's roof vanishes, revealing a giant worm-like creature that Mel somehow instinctively identifies as a lamprey. And remember, this is the surname of Helen and Sir Bertrand. And the Doctor is forced to let go of Mel whilst trying to save Helen, but he's unable to save Helen. The lamprey takes Helen and goes, and then the party resumes with some significant changes. Because the party is now, and always has been, for Sir Bertrand's wife Elspeth, who lost her husband and daughter in a tragic fire some years ago. And Sir Bertrand also vanishes, as does the entire house, moments after the Doctor and Mel emerge from it. And despite these bizarre occurrences, Mel, who is an only child, finds herself more unaccountably disturbed by the Doctor's seeming belief that she had a sister. So, it's getting weird, isn't it? Dear listener, I hope you're following. This is getting complicated.
There's a lot of characters and jumping time periods to keep track of here.
Yes, yeah.
I think at around this point, when they first arrive at the party, there's an early unnamed appearance of the psychic paper here with the Doctor and Mel's party invitation.
Yeah.
And of course, the Eccleston season would have aired by this, by the time this was published. So I wonder if that is like a kind of a subtle tie-in to the new series.
Yeah. Was Gary Russell script head for the first season?
He wasn't, no.
Oh, okay. But he may well have heard that it was something that they were doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the first episode leaked in March, and this came out in August, so I don't know how much lead time, but judging by the acknowledgement section, he praised Justin Richards for being very patient with him, so it probably had a late delivery too. And the waves of time energy at the dinner party and the ripples changing reality reminded me of a similar scene in The Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper, although it was two different parties taking place in the same manor house, but in two different time periods there. But it could have just been a coincidence, because I don't know if Gary's read that series or not.
I've not heard of that series, but...
the movie adaptation stars Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, okay.
And it's very much rooted in Welsh mythology and... I think won like a Newbery medal.
Okay, yeah,
It's a 5-book series. It's well worth checking out.
Okay.
Books 1 and 2 take place simultaneously, and I would actually recommend starting with book 2 and then going back and reading book 1.
Cool. Very interesting.
So the Lamprey raids a number of other timelines, kidnapping certain individuals, and each time the timeline's inhabitants hear a sound like a gigantic heartbeat before being frozen in a single moment of time for all eternity. And we meet Devoutek Nek, who's a young boy from Utopiana City who dreams of becoming a scientist, and he's snatched away from his home when the Lamprey appears in the sky. In another timeline, the various species of the galaxy have united to defeat the fiendish Nazis of Earth, destroying the planet in the process. However, celebrations come to an abrupt halt when the Lamprey freezes time in this timeline and kidnaps a human named Hema Smith from a planet called Halax 5, taking along her close friend and potential lover Marlon Jari. If these are people who are tied to other books, I'm missing the connections.
Yes, yes, same here.
In yet another timeline, Kevin Dorking, who's the fastest star dragster in human space, and drag as in like racing space vehicles and not dressing up in makeup, is taken while running a drag race in Earth's solar system. And the Lamprey's fourth intended victim is a young girl named Kina, who is unavailable, can't get kidnapped. And the Lamprey sets its plans in motion by restraining the other three in a machine that drains the chronon energy out of their bodies and into the unconscious Helen Lamprey. So specific individuals are getting plucked from various timelines there.
Yeah. So let's go into a totally different timeline. So in an alternative timeline, we see a Britain that is still ruled by the Roman Empire in the modern day. And Britain is ruled by Princess Margarita. Yeah, I think she runs Britain and the empire is run by somebody. Anyway, right. But still, Princess Margarita. And here we have a doctor who is scarred and dressed in black. So one of the doctors that we've seen before earlier on in this book. And he's visiting his old friend, Praetor Linus, to ask for help in repairing the TARDIS's image translator. And Linus, he's basically this universe's version of the Brigadier, isn't he? I would say. And Linus knows the story of how the Doctor received the scars. And it was in a battle with the warlord Dominicus, which is Latin for master, that cost the life of his companion, Brown Purpurguillium, who is from the New World.
And it's implied Perry in this timeline is like a Native American.
Yes. Linus offers the Doctor the run of his advanced IT department, but unknown to the Doctor, Linus orders his bodyguard, Captain Rovia, to kill a member of the guard who'd happened to see the Doctor's TARDIS materialise, because kind of like knowledge is power.
And this version of the Doctor has a fully functional chameleon circuit too.
Yes, yeah. And the Doctor visits the IT department and he questions the Roman Empire's need for slaves, but he doesn't push the question further. Though he does notice a young red-haired slave named Melina and decides to take her into his service, sensing something special about her that he can't quite explain to himself. This is the Doctor and Mel of that time.
And I wonder if in this Roman Empire continuity, if it was the same world that we saw in the Iron Legion. Like if it was meant to tie into that with the same like praetors and...
Possibly. I mean, I also just wonder whether he wanted to have something that was quite memorable and also you could quite clearly see, because a few of these Doctors look like the Doctor that we know from the TV. And I guess it's quite easy if you just start talking about a black-cloaked Doctor, you're going to go, oh, it's the Roman one. It's good to have something very distinctive. And it gives a sense of scope as well. So we are seeing these very different worlds. Because there's also more than a hint of Crisis on Infinite Earths and various other DC multiverse events. And I think on some of those you sometimes see glimpses of other universes like that.
And so we turn back to Joseph and Natia Tungard,
Yes.
the Romanian exiles who have settled in England.
Yeah.
But Natia's illness has grown worse since their arrival. And while Dr. Pike has been tending to her, Joseph and Monica have become lovers. So it gets a bit soap opera in parts.
Yes.
And despite Monica's show of concern for her friend, it seems that privately she'd prefer Natia to just pass on as quickly as possible and get out of the picture. And Dr. Pike reveals to Joseph that Natia's contracted tuberculosis and will be dead within months. However, this isn't soon enough for Monica, who lashes out at her grandfather after his diagnosis, demanding to know why Natia has survived even this long. However, she now has another problem to deal with. There's a philanthropist named Sir Bertrand Lamprey, who had been hosting the dinner party previously, and he's offered to fund Joseph's latest research. And since Monica is a Lamprey herself, the possible arrival of a Lamprey from the alternate timeline causes her some grave concern.
It's all clear as mud, isn't it? So we're now going to an alternative Doctor that looks like our regular Doctor. This is one who Rummus had sent to Skylus, and he arrives with his companion, who is Melanie Ball. And Melanie Ball is half human, half Silurian. The planet Skylus seems deserted apart from a young girl called Kina, or Kina. who is hiding from the pulse beat that caused everyone else to stop. So this was the girl that the fourth of the Lamprey's intended victims, but that she'd been unable to find.
And the half-Silurian version of Mel, her father, Ball, is a character from Gary Russell's novel The Scales of Injustice.
Yes, yeah. Here's the thing. I've not read that many of Gary Russell's other Doctor Who novels. And listener, you might be getting lost with this. And so apologies for that. But I must say, whilst I was reading it, I wasn't kind of going, oh, this must be references to other work or various other... I mean, I was able to just to kind of like go with it. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But so the Doctor theorises that everyone else on the planet has been shifted into a different time phase. And whilst he's sharing this theory, Keena starts sketching a design in the sand, like a spiral, but with a scratch through it. And she's then unexpectedly possessed by the spirit of her father, Hemp, who reveals that this is a natural ability of his people that he's using to communicate with the Doctor. But before Hemp or the Doctor can figure out what's happening, the Lamprey arrives and tries to kidnap Keena. And Keena is a natural time sensitive that the Lamprey requires in order to further its plan. And the Doctor identifies the Lamprey as a creature that lives in the time vortex and feeds off chronon energy. And he and Mel hurry Keena into the TARDIS before the Lamprey can take her. And realising that Lamprey may be attacking alternative versions of himself in other timelines, this version of the Doctor sets course back to the library, where he knows that Rummus keeps an ancient Gallifreyan artefact called the Spiral Chamber. But as he nears the library, an alternative, fully human version of Mel appears in the console room, like our Mel. And the Doctor realises from her behaviour that she is interacting with various different versions of himself, but he's unable to see these. And so it must mean that she and not he is from the primary timeline. I thought that was a big leap in logic, I have to say. But anyway, so too late, he realises that the Lamprey allowed him to escape with Keena, so that he would return to the library of his own accord. And so it's presumably trying to get as many versions of the Doctor as possible to the library in order to feed off their accumulated chronon energy. But to defeat the Lamprey, the Doctor must enter the trap.
And we know there's one thing you never ever put into a trap, and that's the Doctor.
Yes, indeed.
So, as the prime version of the Doctor and Mel return to Karsus, Mel reads up on the spiral, the home of the Lampreys, and the vortex at the center of all creation. And the Lamprey's nature is not fully understood, but one theory holds that they are all iterations of a single creature, and if anything were to damage the spiral, the resulting chronon spillage would provide the Lampreys with a food source for all eternity. And the Doctor and Mel arrive at the library to see a time-shifted man and woman arguing over another alternate version of Rummus's murdered body. And the living Rummus takes a photograph of the figures before they vanish, and Mel notes that the woman's handbag is monogrammed ML and guesses that the L stands for Lamprey, which is another bit of a leap. But
well, it's less of a leap than kind of going, oh, this must be the prime version of me or something. Yeah. Anyway, I can't imagine any version of the Sixth Doctor thinking that they are inferior to another version.
Yeah. So then Rummus uses a research database to identify the man, but does not tell Mel what he's learned, claiming that too much future foreknowledge could prove dangerous. And curious, Mel slips away while the Doctor and Rummus plan their next move, and looks up her own history, only to find there are at least 117,863 other versions of Mel out there, and that doesn't count versions with other names. And we learn her full official name is Melanie Jane Bush.
Yeah.
She also bumps into her half-Silurian counterpart, Melanie Ball, and although they only interact briefly, the two Melanies get along quite well together.
Melanie Ball and her Doctor visit Helen Lamprey's birthday party. But in this timeline, the party is being held on a space station in orbit around the Earth. And Helen has a faithful bodyguard called Chakis, who's keeping watchful eye on the guests. And whilst this is happening, the Doctor wanders through the hall and runs into the human Melanie. So this is the half-Silurian Mel's Doctor meeting our Mel, Mel Prime. And the alternative timelines are merging with one another, and the two parties are overlapping. And this is the same conversation that Mel had at White's Manor, but from the other end. And Mel vanishes from the Doctor's perspective, and events then unfold roughly as they did at the other party. Chakis turns out to be a servant of the Lamprey, and he summons it to the station, where it takes Helen before the Doctor can stop it. This alternative Doctor and Melanie Barr return to Carsus to warn Rummus that they have failed.
And with over 100,000 versions of Mel in this story, it has a bit of an everything everywhere all at once vibe.
Yes.
Although no hot dog fingers or googly eyes. Although we do have sentient rock creatures showing up at one point.
We do.
So then the Prime Doctor and Mel visit a restaurant on Charing Cross Road, where Sir Bertrand has invited Joseph and Nadia to dinner to discuss their funding. And Monica's pressured Joseph into inviting her along to find out who Sir Bertrand really is. And when the Doctor and Mel arrive, they recognize Monica and Joseph as the killers from the library. The Doctor's thrown when Monica casually confirms that she is the Lamprey and that she's been killing off alternative versions of Rummus in order to prevent him from interfering in her plans. And Monica has been manipulating Joseph, seducing him into an affair, and then blackmailing him into using his research to develop chemicals that can then be used to create rifts between alternate timelines. And she intends to travel through these, seal off the timelines within millisecond-long time loops, and then feed off the ensuing release of chronon energy. And this will result in possibly irreparable damage to the spiral. However, and the fact that the timelines are already overlapping indicates that her plan will succeed sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So we get the big villain reveal.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite Spider-Verse, isn't it? So these revelations trigger Sir Bertrand's buried memories, and he realises that he's a Lamprey for an alternative timeline. And we also get told that Monica was once known as Dominique, and is one of the two lost children that ended up in Woolpit. So that section is finally explained.
Mm-hmm.
And Sir Bertrand pursued them there, but lost track of them, and then rode the time winds to a future era in the same location, and settled down as a human, creating a base of operations from which to search for the missing girl, Dominique. He then met Elspeth and fell in love, and deliberately suppressed his own memories so that he could live with his human partner. And now he remembers his mission. He transforms into a Lamprey and attacks Monica, trying to kill her.
And as you have these two gigantic Lampreys battling each other, waves of temporal energy wash through the restaurant, aging the other patrons to dust within seconds, similar to what Sarah Kingdom experienced.
Yeah.
And the Lamprey's dinner guests shelter in the eye of the storm, and Dr. Pike tells Joseph that Nadia should have died years ago, so that Joseph's attention was no longer divided between her and Monica. Ironically, however, the temporal energy bleeding away from Monica has kept Nadia alive all this time, and the Doctor, seeing the carnage resulting from the Lamprey's battle, begs Sir Bertrand to stop, and one of the Lampreys transforms into Bertrand's human form and banishes the other into the vortex. The Doctor realizes that Bertrand's daughter is a unique half-human and a half-Lamprey hybrid, and Monica needs her in order to achieve her objectives. The Doctor and Mel then rush off, accompanied by Joseph, who's unsure what's going on, as was I at this point, but realizes that he's in some way to blame for these events. As soon as they've gone, however, Sir Bertrand transforms into Monica, who reveals that she banished the real Sir Bertrand in his Lamprey form to the vortex. Pike and Nadia have long outlived their usefulness at this point, and Monica drains the chronon energy from their bodies, killing them and preparing herself for the final battle with the Doctor and the destruction of the spiral.
So stakes are rising. So unaware of all of this, the Doctor, Mel and Joseph return to the TARDIS, only to find multiple versions of the Doctor in the console room. And the other Doctors start returning to their own timelines one by one until only two are left. And one of those vanishes after asking Mel if she has a sister called Annabelle. So, yeah, that only child thing is coming back to play. The Doctor sets course for Carsus, where the library is, now convinced that it is the source of the disturbances, and demands that Rummus reveal the truth. Meanwhile, Joseph, who's been fascinated by all this technology that he's been seeing, tries to look up his own history on one of the library computers and realises he's always been destined to discover new atomic elements capable of ripping open the spiral and unleashing the Lampreys upon the whole of creation. And other time travellers have been trying to kill him his entire life, but the Lampreys have intervened to keep him alive. Monica then materialises in the library and casts Mel back into her own past, revealing an incident that made her unique out of all the other Melanies in the multiverse. And this is where things take a dark twist, because it seems that when Mel, our Mel, was 18 months old, she accidentally tripped her sister at the top of the stairs, Annabelle, and killed her. And so Annabelle was 3 years old, Mel was 18 months old. And rather than collapsing in despair, Mel focuses her anger and punches Monica in the face. And the furious Monica throws Mel out of the library and into another alternative timeline. So did you see that coming?
I didn't know. I was surprised Mel resorted to violence in those circumstances. But
well, I know. I mean the whole the Annabelle twist as well. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
I was just, my mind immediately went to, oh, this Mel just happens to be an only child in this timeline, and maybe that's unique, not that she had accidentally killed her sister. But
yeah, and so that couple that we saw earlier on in the book at Christmas time that were preparing to kind of move to get away from a tragedy, those were her parents. So, yeah, Mel was being put through the ringer.
Yeah, she is. So meanwhile, Rummus is forced to admit to the Doctor that this is all his fault. However, he also claims that the problem is now solved. Rummus had stolen an ancient Gallifreyan artifact called the Spiral Chamber with the intention of studying the spiral directly and learning the truth about the Lamprey. However, in doing so, it provided the Lamprey with its first access to the multiverse. And as far as Rummus is aware, he's been observing it ever since, without making any attempt to stop its plans, but that's only because it had been rewriting his own history, and the versions of himself who posed a threat were all murdered by Monica and Joseph. Rummus has also learned that the Lamprey needs a lodestone with which to anchor itself to reality, so that it can create a home base from which to feed off the multiverse, rather than drifting aimlessly through the timelines. And that lodestone happens to be Helen, who only exists in 1 out of every 5 timelines. And to tap Helen's latent abilities and transform her into a lodestone, the Lampreys kidnapped time-sensitives from the other 4 universes and is draining their chronon energy into Helen's body to kind of power her up.
Yeah.
However, the Helen Lamprey from the primary timeline happens to be the daughter of Sir Bertrand, which makes her the weak link in the chain, as she's half-human. And Rummus now reveals that he monitored the confrontation in the restaurant, and as soon as Sir Bertrand flung Monica into the vortex, he and the librarian custodians grabbed her, sealed her up in the spiral chamber, and killed her. And from that point on, the temporal disturbances should start to resolve, like ripples on like the surface of water. However, the furious Doctor reveals that, as always, Monica had anticipated Rummus's actions and prepared for them, and that Rummus had killed the wrong Lamprey because she had impersonated Sir Bertrand in that moment. And so, therefore, the only being that could have possibly helped them, Sir Bertrand, has been killed in the spiral chamber.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit confusing, isn't it? But basically, Rummus thought he's done a good thing, and it turns out that he's actually killed the wrong one. And yeah, but oh dear. Yeah, right. So, Mel has been transported to the planet Janus 8, where she is rescued by the alternative Roman doctor and her counterpart, Melina. Is it Melina? Melina,
I think, yeah.
Melina, let's call the whole thing off. And Melina is not acclimatizing well to being taken away from everything she knew. So our Mel notices the Roman doctor's scar, and he says that he acquired it when his companion Perry was killed by a barbarian warlord who'd sought to make her his queen. And
not your Carnos, by the way.
No.
There's a different member of that same species, I think.
Well, yes, but also we got that reference earlier to being Dominus.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lamprey disguised as...
Yes, who knows. And the Doctor told his friends that she died heroically in combat. And so the scar is there to remind himself of her. And the Roman doctor takes Melina and Mel back to the library, where they're joined by the Doctor Prime and also the alternative doctor with Melanie Barl. And the three doctors compare notes and conclude that Monica has hidden Helen Lamprey in a subspace universe away from ordinary time. And there she's transforming Helen into the temporal lodestone, which she can seal off timelines from the spiral, so that she can then feed on the resulting release of chronon energy. And Joseph, it seems, is the key to her victory due to his discovery of chemicals that she could use to rip holes in the fabric of reality. And Joseph thought that the murders that he'd been taking part in were a series of bad dreams, but in fact, he's been killing off alternative versions of Rummus, as we know, and thus depleting the total chronon energy in the library until it reaches a safe level. And now Monica can use the library to store the chronon energy released by the destruction of alternative timelines. And also, she's very confident because she has now manipulated Rummus into killing Sir Bertram, as we know, and Sir Bertram is the only creature powerful enough to pose a threat to her plan. So, yeah. Oh, I hope you're following this.
I'm not, but that's okay.
Yes.
So the only way to defeat the lamprey now is to overfeed it and give it so much chronon energy that it fills itself to bursting. And I'm kind of picturing like the Jagrafess here.
Yeah.
And before confronting the lamprey for the final time, the doctors plan to weaken it by rescuing Helen and the time sensitives. And Joseph mixes up the chemicals that will be needed in order to open a rift into the subspace universe. But the three Melanies, realizing that their doctors need time to prepare for the final battle, go through the rip to rescue the lamprey's victims themselves. They're aided by Marlon Jarl, whom Monica has ignored because he was brought along by accident. And for a while there, I was thinking Marlon was like a male version of Melanie, just because his name started with an M, but yes, that wasn't the case. However, as they remove Helen and the time sensitives from the machine, Monica finds Joseph and kills him, as he's outlived his usefulness to her. And then she tries to prevent the time sensitives from escaping. And when Marlon and Hema Smith try to hold them back, Monica sweeps straight through them, reducing them both to dust. The others escape through the rift, but the Roman Melina hesitates to destroy the chemicals that are keeping the rift open, fearing that she could be hurt. Melanie Ball sweeps them to the floor without hesitation, and she's instantly incinerated, to Melina's shame.
Yeah. The Doctor explains to Mel, our Mel, that Helen is now helping them to set a trap. And Mel at first thinks that he's planning to use Helen as bait, before realising that he's actually going to be using himself. So the plan is that Helen's going to use her power as a half lamprey to open up the alternative timelines and allow multiple doctors to interact within the library. And the alternative doctors are all going to allow the lamprey to feed off their accumulated chronal energy. And this will cost the lives of many of the alternative doctors, possibly without their consent. And Rummus blames himself, knowing that his friend is going to have to die many times over because Rummus meddled with the spiral without knowing what he was doing. Yeah, and he killed the wrong lamprey.
Yeah, kind of a bit incompetent there, but...
Yes.
So then the alternative doctors enter the spiral chamber, and Mel can do nothing but watch as the lamprey arrives and begins to feed off them.
Yeah. Shall we talk about some of these alternative doctors? We've got two doctors with an Evelyn, Evelyn Smythe, one of whom has been cyberized.
Which implies then that the events of real time and Cyber Evelyn was its own kind of separate continuity from the rest of Big Finish.
Yeah, we also have a doctor and a penguin. So, hiya, Frobisher.
And a doctor and Perry.
Yes, yeah.
I almost kind of wish that rather than have, hundreds of thousands of versions of Mel, would have been interesting if we had taken that approach where we had like the Doctor and Frobisher throughout and the Doctor and Evelyn throughout, because that kind of going into it, that's what I was anticipating. It's funny, Big Finish has an upcoming audio drama called The Quinn Dilemma, which features multiple versions of the Sixth Doctor, kind of in that mindset. So maybe if I go have a listen to that, I will get the story that I thought I was getting.
Yes.
But yeah, it is kind of cool to see all the different versions of the Doctor and his companions.
Yes.
So then the alternate Doctors...
Yeah, they're in the spiral chamber, yeah.
And then Mel can do nothing but watch as the Lamprey arrives and begins to feed off them. So we don't get confirmation like, oh, the comic version of the Sixth Doctor died necessarily.
No.
But a few of the alternate versions survive. But Melina tries to atone for her earlier hesitation by confronting the Lamprey, but it blasts her out of existence with a gesture. And the Doctors successfully overfeed the Lamprey as planned, although many of the alternate Doctors and companions blink out of existence as the Lamprey drains them of time energy completely.
Including the Roman Doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, which I was quite sad when he went. And also Melanie Barl's Doctor. And I was even sadder because like, he seemed even nicer than Sixth Doctor Prime. But, yeah.
And eventually the Lamprey is fed on so much Cronin energy that it finds itself bound to this one time and place. And Mel's Doctor, then our Prime Doctor, leaps into the spiral chamber and tackles it, keeping it pinned, while the remaining Doctors focus their last blasts of Cronin energy into the Lamprey, filling it up until it burns away to nothing.
So with the Prime Lamprey destroyed... actually, have we spoken about there being alternative Lampreys? But anyway, there are side Lampreys that have been created.
I don't think we need to overcomplicate this further.
No. But anyway, once the Prime Lamprey is gone, Helen is destroyed as well. And the surviving Doctors return to their own timelines, explicitly including the Doctor with the penguin. So Frobisher lives. And yeah, I like to think that you could still say that the Doctor and Frobisher and also Evelyn's Doctor could just be earlier versions of this Doctor. Or something. I don't think you need to say, oh, the Doctor Prime never met Evelyn, never had Frobisher as a companion.
And those other kind of alternate Doctors that show up with those companions didn't really get speaking parts.
No.
So they were more kind of like cameos, and there also isn't really acknowledgement from Mel that she's met Evelyn before either.
Yes.
So maybe the book version of Mel didn't meet like Evelyn in Instruments of Darkness or Thicker Than Water.
Yeah, but we're also seeing this from Mel's point of view. We're not seeing this from the Doctor's point of view. And so therefore there's also no contradiction with the Doctor going, what's the penguin doing? So anyway, our Doctor emerges from the spiral chamber, exhausted by his efforts. And Rummus and the custodians, so the librarian guards, set off to ensure that the multiverse is indeed free of all trace of the Lamprey. And the Doctor leaves them to it, content that he's won the battle. But to Mel's horror, the Doctor seems to be growing older before her eyes. And he admits that the blasts of Cronin energy he absorbed during the last moments in the spiral chamber have ravaged his body. And so they go back to the TARDIS, and he materialises in deep space for one last look at the universe. And this is where our dramatic reading comes in, because we haven't had that yet. So we have a dramatic reading from The Drinking Hat.
Ooh.
So yes, Matt and Hannah from The Drinking Hat. Shall we have a listen?
Yes, let's.
The Doctor finally pried his hands away from the console, trying to work the fingers, but to no avail. He stared straight at Mel, and she suddenly realized she was facing not a man in his mid-40s as he normally appeared, but a tired, drained man, who just this once she could believe was 900 plus years. His blue eyes were gray, the crow's feet more pronounced, and his hair had a few gray roots and curls, especially at the temples. "We did good, Mel. I'm honored to have had you at my side one last time." And he fell to the floor with a loud crump. Mel was at his side in a second, resting his head on her lap, massaging his temples.
"Come on, Doctor. No time to be sleeping."
She looked up at the scanner. All those stars still twinkling. All the planets still revolving. All the life that owed its continued existence to a man, a wonderful, brave man it had never known. Might never know. She realized she was crying. and a tear dropped onto the doctor's face. His skin was very grey now. His eyes flickered open, and he smiled tightly. "Don't cry, Mel. It was my time. Well, maybe not, but it was my time to give, to donate. I've had a good innings, you know. Seen and done a lot. I can't complain this time. Don't feel cheated." She couldn't understand what he was saying. He couldn't be dying. Had letting his Cronin energy be absorbed to that degree really destroyed him, finally?
No,
She whispered.
it's not fair.
Yes it is, she heard him say, but the words seemed to be in her head rather than coming from his closed mouth. She suddenly found herself remembering their initial meeting in Brighton, an initial enmity that had given way to respect, admiration, and finally a great enough affection that she had given it all up to join him aboard the TARDIS, to travel the universe. The TARDIS lights seemed to have dimmed a fraction, as if she knew, understood. Mel wished she did. Then the TARDIS lurched violently. Once, twice, 3 times. The doctor was rocked out of her hands, and he curled up facing the bottom of the console. "Local tractor beam," he said aloud this time, trying to raise his hand, trying to reach up, grab the console, and haul himself upright. Mel watched for a second, convinced that he'd succeed. Of course he would. If they were under some sort of attack, the doctor would leap into action and save the day. Again, he had to.
Doctor!
She whispered, as instead his arm dropped, and he was still once more. His skin was the color of granite now, and Mel was sure it was blurring slightly. Had to be her own tears distorting her vision. The force of the tractor beams, another one rocked the TARDIS again, had sent her a couple feet away from the doctor, and the floor seemed to be at a severe angle. She tried to crawl towards him, but another blow, and then another, and Mel suddenly wondered if this was what it was like to be a deep-sea diver going down too rapidly, getting the bends. She felt somehow that the TARDIS was indeed going down, being dragged through space like a roller coaster car in free fall, and then it was all over. The TARDIS landed with an enormous juddering thump. But in her ears, in her mind, it seemed as if the noise was still going on, and she knew then that she had failed the doctor. He was dying in front of her eyes, and her own brain was closing down, trying to block off the effects of the crash landing, or whatever it was, by making her sleep. She would fight the unconsciousness. She had been knocked out before. She knew that she could catch it. Stop it. She knew she could. She knew. No, it wasn't fair. Wait. The TARDIS door was opening. How? No one had operated the door controls. They must have been forced. Mel could barely keep her eyes open, and the darkness that wanted to consume her was winning. She was losing the battle. "Let it go," she heard her inner voice say. "Sleep." With a final effort, Mel rolled onto her back, facing the doorway. As unconsciousness took hold, she was sure there were people there. They moved towards her, and as she finally succumbed to the complete sensory deprivation, she heard a strident female voice barking an order.
"Leave the girl. It's the man I want. Take him to my laboratory."
So, yeah, thank you very much, Matt, and thank you very much, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you, Drinking Hat. That was amazing.
Yes, and that's the end of the book. It's the first time that we've occasionally started we've had the reading being the very start of the book, but this is the first time we've had the reading being the very end of the book. But you kind of need to do the regeneration scene, didn't you? So yeah, that's it. "Leave the girl, it's the man I want" is the last line.
And flows right into Time in the Ranny.
Yeah. So, what did you make of that one then, Matt?
From what I could understand, I enjoyed parts of it.
Yeah.
I guess for me, reading through it, it was very confusing in parts. But if you were able to like kind of shut that part of your brain off and just say like, okay, focusing on the characters in the scene we have before us and not really worrying about how it all fits together, I still was able to get, some enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess I was hoping for some more context clues sprinkled in to better help identify which reality we were currently in. And sometimes we would get references to like the Roman doctor or the reptilian Mel or something where that helped place things. But a lot of times we didn't get those context clues, or if we did, they were so subtle that I missed them.
Yeah.
So, it was a bit challenging to keep track of all the timelines. But how about you? What were your kind of initial impressions?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I probably enjoyed it more than you did. But I did kind of feel that maybe Mel, because like Mel goes through an enormous amount in this book, and I find it a little bit hard to then explain how she is in Time in Irani. Because like she's just discovered that as a child she killed her sister, and she's just seen as well various different versions of herself die and various different versions of the Doctor die. I mean, she's been through a pretty horrific and intense, and personally intense adventure. And there's also times in which she's taken back. We've not even discussed it, but there's quite a few subplots we haven't discussed, including her going back to her university days. And I don't quite see how she's comparatively light in Time in Irani after this.
Unless it's like a multi-doctor amnesia sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. But I did enjoy. I mean, it felt like a great big send-off. And I certainly really enjoyed the Roman stuff, but also anything featuring the Roman Empire or alternative Roman empires, it typically is in my wheelhouse, with the exception of the Iron Legion. Yeah, because the focus is on Mel quite a bit, it kept this epic personal. So it wasn't a whole host of bizarre and grandiose and sort of like aliens doing alien things to other aliens. Because I found myself caring for Mel while she was going through all of this, even though the Mel in this book is slightly different from the Mel that we know. I mean, I couldn't imagine the Mel on telly talking about a shag palace, which is a university hall. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't need to know about what Mel got up to at university. Yeah. I really don't. But okay, thank you for sharing.
I feel like some of the stuff with Mel's backstory and her family relationships was that new series influence coming through, like the Tylers maybe. Yes. And Gary also tied it in with her Uncle John getting a mention, who was in the Big Finish play Catch 1782, which I have listened to, was a while ago, but some of her backstory is revealed in that audio as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll remember this book. Yeah, there are some books that we've read that I won't be able to remember, but certainly this, yes, because it's on such an epic scale. And I like the fact that it starts out with all these various different threads, and it all just hones in until you basically have just one Doctor and one Mel. And apparently Gary Russell found writing an absolute nightmare.
I can see that. So, I mean, you've experienced both this and The Last Adventure, so does one have more prominence in your personal headcanon than the other, or can they coexist?
Well, so there is a theory these could coexist because both of them have kind of like time being interfered with to varying degrees, and so therefore one of these could have been an original version of the Doctor's regeneration, the other one is a rewritten version of it. Yeah, I think they could both exist.
One thing I did notice is that part of the Sixth Doctor's final farewell speech overlaps between the two, and I'm assuming that's intentional.
Yeah.
Because he does say in both that he's had a good innings.
Yes.
That to me felt like a nod from the Big Finish version to this version, and that particular phrase.
Yeah, but also it's a strange thing. You'd have thought that the Fifth Doctor would have said that.
Yeah.
Because innings is a baseball term. It's also very much a cricket term. So I mean, I can't imagine this story on television, but I think you could plonk somebody down in front of this a lot easier than you could plonk someone down in front of, say, The Last Adventure. Because I think The Last Adventure does require a bit of explanation. And also, as well, very mild spoilers, but with the final story in The Last Adventure, Mel is a little bit of a side character in it, in comparison. Whereas here, Mel is front and centre. And also, both of them make references to Lacertia. So the Big Finish version kind of like says that Lacertia has some radiation in it that's deadly to Time Lords. At which point you're kind of like, well, yeah, Durrani's there though. But yeah, they're both different stories. But I mean, this is more of a coherent whole. Whereas I think The Last Adventure, it's 4 stories with a little bit of a common thread, and some of it becomes more obvious the further you go into it. But yeah, I think on balance, I prefer this version. Even though like Mel has to have her mind wiped for her to not be completely in shock by the time Durrani rocks up. But also she has a bang to the head, so maybe immediately after they leave Lacertia, she goes, right, I just need to go down and have a sit and process everything.
Yeah, I guess for me, like, I had a bit of a strong headwind going into this book as I very much have multiverse fatigue.
Okay, yeah.
Mainly from the MCU, to the point where I have no interest in watching like Loki season 2. And it's not the fault of this book, but just kind of being transparent and in going into it and stuff. I think I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I'm glad I have The Last Adventure out there to still experience in full, and then I can, kind of compare the two. But yeah, it just overall it felt a bit sprawling and messy and maybe not very tightly plotted. And of course, it being a Gary Russell book, the Picards get a mention randomly at the end of the book. But I guess I was hoping for perhaps a bit of a stronger send-off, and I can't really pinpoint. I think maybe it was too many versions of the Doctor and Mel versus the Doctor and other companions, although I do appreciate that Mel was very much front and center here. I just perhaps didn't really care for the story being told around her as much.
Yeah.
How about for yourself?
This Doctor, he dies saving the multiverse. I mean, the 4th Doctor dies saving the universe. I mean, this is the kind of like death of big scales that you don't see until kind of like the modern era. But yeah, I'm giving this an 8.
Okay.
I enjoy. Also, as well, as soon as Woolpit appeared, I thought, oh, I'm probably going to enjoy this because Woolpit is. I'm glad that Woolpit has finally got into Doctor Who. I thought, yes, it was sprawling, but I felt it was a bit tighter. But also, I didn't have the issue that you did of being thrown when I was sometimes. Well, or it's, I think there were sometimes I enjoyed trying to figure out which Doctor is it that we're with. I mean, I would make sure that whenever I was having to stop reading it, I would get to the end of a chapter, because I didn't want to resume reading it mid-chapter, because you'd be kind of like, well, what on earth is going on?
Yeah.
I've always quite enjoyed things like Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff like that. So I don't think I'm quite as multiverse fatigued, but I've also not seen all of those movies yet.
I feel though, like if you're gonna have multiple doctors in a story, don't also then call one of your characters Dr. Pike and then also refer to him as the Doctor in the narrative, because at that point you're just being plain inconsiderate to the reader. But
yes,
yeah, I was confused throughout much of this. But the individual scenes and stuff were enjoyable and, as you said, memorable. So I feel like it is worth experiencing. Yeah,
I think the book is well written from a prose point of view. And I thought as well that the Sixth Doctor did seem to be a bit like the Sixth Doctor that we know from Trial of a Time Lord. Yeah, because there were times where I could just hear Colin Baker giving speeches, like, with the Prime Doctor. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
So that's Spiral Scratch.
Yes, yeah. So there we go. So I think we're now at the stage where we get feedback.
Yeah, let's. So we got an email this month from Kenny, who says, "Hi, fellas. Just a quick note to say how much I enjoyed your recent podcasts from Minnesota. He particularly enjoyed listening to our Confidential Unleashed edition, as it's always interesting to hear just what goes into the making of a podcast. He says that Pieces of Eighth and The Power of Three both have very different production processes, where The Power of Three is never scripted, whereas Pieces of Eighth has a checklist to work through. So it was great hearing how we work our podcasts." And he says he's currently rereading a few of the missing adventures, as he has a series of episodes coming up with interviews with several of the authors already completed or in hand. And he said, "We've never had it so good in the world of original Doctor Who fiction." And he says, "Take care as ever, Kenny." I'm still working my way through your November episodes, Kenny. Quite the prolific amount of output there.
Yes.
But thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, I really did enjoy our Confidential Unleashed podcast, which kind of peeled back the curtain a little bit in terms of how we make the sausage.
Yeah. Hopefully didn't give anybody any scares. But yeah. So we didn't have any comments on the Facebook page, but we did have our usual likes and loves. What about the multiverse of joy? This is Twitter or X.
Yeah. So on Twitter, we heard from Randy, who says he owns a copy of the American Adventures, but like so many books in his collection, he hasn't read it yet.
Don't, Randy, don't.
Mike Morgan says of the American Adventures that he did not like that book, and good luck.
Yep.
And we've also heard from Shag, who said he was listening to our American Adventures episode whilst getting his Who on, walking the streets of Los Angeles and picking up supplies for Gallifrey 1.
Ooh.
And he loved all of our content from Console Room and wishes he was there.
Aww.
Well, they're having it again next year.
Yes, yeah. I can't promise I'll be there in person next year.
But I probably will be. So.
Yes. But it's less of a commute for you.
Yeah, very true.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for all the feedback. And just as a reminder, you can send us an email at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us on one of our social media platforms, which are linked in the show notes.
Right. And so now you're going to tell us what we're going to be reading next month. Which is it's very exciting because I think, we'd had a couple of ones that were a bit and I think Spiral Scratch we both kind of enjoyed to varying degrees. So let's see how we go.
Well, I'm down to 4 doctors to choose from in this cycle, so it'll be 2, 8, 9, or 11. And I think I'm going to go with the 9th Doctor.
Ooh.
And there's not a whole lot to choose from in book format, unless we want to, say, read another Justin Richards or Stephen Cole book.
Yes.
So I decided to go with Doctor Mania, which is the 2nd volume of the Titan comic series.
Ooh.
And is written by Cavan Scott. And it collects 5 issues of the comic, plus a bonus free comic book day story, and picks up from Weapons of Past Destruction, which we've previously reviewed.
Think it's available in E4.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So for April, it'll be Doctor Mania.
Oh, very exciting. Okay, cool. That because I remember quite enjoying Weapons of Past Destruction. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe. And watch out for the lampreys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Yeah, sorry about that. I tried to click accept the call, and I think I exited out of the program. I was like, whoops, didn't mean to push that button.
Yes, it said declined. Oh, okay, fine. No worries.
I enjoyed Weapons of Past Destruction quite a bit, so I figure
Yeah.
let's take the next slice of that story.
Yes, that was not as long an episode as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we were able to power through the recap part.
Yes.
It's not as complex as Eye of Heaven, which I think is still our record for.
Yes. But also as well, that's a very hard book
to summarize. Yeah.
To summarize and to convey the experience of reading it.
I think I'm going to finish listening to The Legacy of Time because I am very intrigued with where that story goes, and
yeah, cool.
But my Big Finish listen pile grows ever larger.
Yes.